Failure is typically not associated as being a positive thing. However, failure is something that everyone will have to deal with in life and especially in business. Forbes discussed this topic in an article and states, "How do we cope with fear?" Fear isn't talked about nearly often enough simply because we all want to seem like we know what we're doing. It is important to create strategies and coping mechanisms to live with fear and create anyway. Why do you think people are so scared to fail in business?
That's a great question. In my opinion, people in business are scared to fail because I feel like everybody is. Like, why wouldn't we be afraid to fail? It's not usually the main goal of anybody in business, but we all want to be successful. What I would say is more people need to realize that in order to be successful, you do need to fail first. Failure is a way for people to learn from past mistakes, change parts of their business that don't work, um, and just a ton more. It's also important to go into business with the mindset of I might fail, but if I do, I will gain important information that will help me in the future.
I totally agree with you. Failure actually plays an important role in businesses and life. People should not be afraid to fail. Everyone fails at some point in their life. Sometimes the thought of failure can be scary, but if you fail at something, that means it can only get better in the future. Failure makes you realize how much you are actually capable of and how much you can improve the next time. Staying strong during failures and hard times shows people what kind of person you are too. A person needs to fail before they can succeed.
Both Tachney and Jordyn bring up great points here with this question. When I was looking at the different components of success and failure, I came across an article written by a man named Ant Jackson from the Medium. I'll share a quote here from Ant's piece that really stuck out to me about failure. Ant says, "Fear of failure hides in between the things we think we know about ourselves." He shares that the fear of failure is actually far more complicated and sneaky than something like being afraid of spiders. Ant goes on to share in his article some words by Guy Winch, a psychologist. Winch explains the fear of failure as causing people to unconsciously sabotage their chances of success in a variety of ways. The key word to recognize here is unconsciously. Having the fear of failure is something that we as individuals do so unconsciously or without thought, it just comes natural to many. Mr. Winch believes that the fear of failure is the same as fear shaming. He says that is toxic because instead of feeling bad about our actions or our efforts, shame makes us feel bad about who we are. The fear of failure is something that we as mankind are conditioned to from both our environment and our experiences. Towards the end of his article, I referenced to earlier, he makes another interesting statement in which he says, "I now understand that fear of failure operates like a computer virus. It can be running in the background without you noticing. You can love your life, but everything is operating on about 60 to 70%. When something won't open or it takes an eternity to reboot, you just find a workaround. You can live to work with the labored pace until one day you can't." So in my opinion, while there are many reasons or thoughts behind why individuals may be afraid to fail in a business setting or even life itself, I really just think that it is a conditioned fear that starts to evolve within ourselves at a young age and something that will always be there unconsciously in everything we do. It's like anxiety. It will always be there. It's just up to the individual to find ways in which they can successfully cope with it. Again, though, as both Tachney and Jordyn stated, an individual has to fail before they're truly able to succeed. This is something that we as mankind need to both accept and appreciate. Failure is a good thing.
So it sounds like you all are pretty much on the same page. Failure is not always the most comfortable situation to be in, but in the long run, it can really help. It can, sorry, it, but in the long run, it can really be helpful feedback. So if most people see failure as a way to become better and keep creativity high, why do you think failure is so taboo or even embarrassing to some people?
In my opinion, people love to share about their successes in life. It's just human nature to want to share the amazing things going on and to keep other things pretty private. It is so weird because we all know that everyone fails. So I think a lot of the embarrassment that comes from failure is just human nature. I think that if we all took a step back and started being less harsh on ourselves and on others, that failure would not seem like such a big, scary thing and instead be seen as something that we can all learn from and grow.
Exactly. Everyone fails at some point. People just need to learn to embrace their failures. Dwelling on them isn't going to help anything. Like you just said, people love to share their successes, but not so much their failures. I think that people try to hide their failures so that others don't think badly or low of them. But actually admitting you failed at something will relieve a lot of pressure you have on yourself.
I think the embarrassment that comes with failure is at the fault of mankind. As a society, we strive to be picture perfect individuals, individuals that have no flaws. We as mankind fail to normalize the fact that the path to success is generally embarrassing, ugly, and clumsy. We fail to accept the fact that our most powerful lessons in life actually come from our biggest failures. We fail to learn that embracing our failures is only part of the learning process, that these failures not only help us in achieving success, but they are a prerequisite to it. Rather than laughing or judging, we as society need to learn to take failures and roll with them. While they might not be something we celebrate, we have to accept that they are okay for the embarrassment to be taken away. Society has taught us to laugh at the misery of others, and this is where we have gone wrong. When we decide to shift as a unit and pick people up from their mistakes, telling them we've been there ourselves, we will be taking a shift in the right direction.
You guys made very good points. Now, going back to the very basics of failure, and as we slowly transition into the topic of success here, do you guys want to share your inputs or opinions on why we as individuals not only fail, but why we also succeed?
Sure, we can do that. To round out failure here, I think that there are a variety of different reasons as to why it actually happens. Planet of Success has an article titled The 16 Reasons We Fail in Life and How to Change That. In the article written by Steve Mueller, I think Mueller lists the most universal or textbook reasons behind why people fail. His list starts with the lack of self-discipline. When an individual lacks self-discipline, they are oftentimes likely to give up on what they are doing. Being disciplined makes the distraction of temptations all the easier to avoid. The second reason is lack of persistence. So many individuals today quit when the going gets tough. That is the part of an experience when your natural talents have been used to their capacity and you have to work persistently to come up with new approaches and adjustments. Our talents can only get us so far. Working outside of these in an uncomfortable manner is where real success comes. The third reason behind failure is the unwillingness to swim against the current. As Mueller notes, it's always easier to swim with the flow, but it will lead you where everyone else goes. Going down this mainstream only gives you the results of those amongst you, not true success. People are threatened by those that choose to go in the opposite direction of the current or express unpopular opinions and ideas. Having the courage to swim against the current is where success lies. The fourth reason behind failure is lack of planning. This one is fairly self-explanatory. If you don't have a proper plan, you are less likely to succeed. The fifth reason is the fear behind, in which we went into pretty good detail in the previous two questions. A good quote to note here is actually by Robert F. Kennedy. Kennedy said, "Only those who dare to fail greatly can ever achieve greatly." Failure shouldn't be a punishment, rather a lesson to continue to pursue what we want. The sixth reason Mueller has as to why we fail is wanting too much too quickly, followed by the seventh reason being lack of belief in yourself, and the eighth, which is lack of humility. With the eighth reason here, it is noted that humble people are more likely to be the high performers. By remaining humble, we allow ourselves room to listen and grow in the directions we need. I'm almost out of breath here, though, so I'll let Tachney carry on with the eight remaining reasons as to why we fail.
Thank you, Peyton. The ninth reason behind failure Mueller gives is excuses. He says that when we blame others for our own mistakes, we are destined to fail. Like Peyton noted a quote from Kennedy earlier, I will note one from Benjamin Franklin here. He says, "He that is good for making excuses is seldom good for anything else." I find this quote to be both blunt and accurate when it comes to individuals that justify everything through excuses rather than taking responsibility, learning, and moving forward. The 10th reason then is unwillingness to network. Investing your time in building relationships and connections is what helps us build a team. A lot of times it takes a team to conquer a task rather than one individual. Sometimes it's not what you know, rather who you know. Moving on to the 11th reason, the inclination to give up. While giving up spares you from a lot of time and effort, it robs you at the same chance of success. Being resilient to advice is then the 12th reason listed. Sometimes we have to accept that we don't have all the answers or know everything in the books. Constructive feedback and advice may not always feel the best, but it is sometimes what we need. Following that is the refusal to learn from past mistakes, preceded by the inability to overcome distractions, procrastination, and failure to take responsibility, rounding the list out. While these are all a variety of the different reasons failure happens in one's life, we have to manage to turn them around. By discovering where our failure is coming from, we can address them and learn to either avoid or cope with them. Failure is not fatal. Success is what comes from having the courage to take these failures and learn from them. With that, I will leave it to Jordyn to kick off the discussion of success and some of the reasons in which individuals see success in their lives.
Success is the achievement of a goal or task. There is not only one road to success. It comes from many trials that end up failing. Like we said earlier, you should celebrate your successes and your failures. You should think of your failures as one step closer to success. Being able to overcome your failures and still maintain your overall happiness will bring you closer and closer to your goal. Once you succeed at something, try not to let it get into your head too much. If it gets into your head, it could lead you to thinking that everything in life will be successful. When you make your next mistake, you have to just keep your head up and remember that it will eventually turn into a success.
Again, you guys have a lot of great opinions to add to the conversation of success and failure. As I mentioned above, let's continue on with the topic of success here. Some people who become successful share their fortunes with others, and some people keep it to themselves and spend it. There is a saying that success can change a person in their life. Do you think that success can change someone's personality?
I think that success can change people if they let it. Some people might think they are better than others if they are the ones that succeeded at something before the other person does. Success brings out more of a person's personality. If they are selfish to begin with, they will become more selfish. If they are competitive, they will become even more competitive once they finally succeed at something. What do you guys think?
I think that success can definitely change someone's personality. I feel like this is so common in Hollywood. It happens so often where people start to get greedy and self-absorbed after they are extremely successful. A lot of this, I think, has to do with money. I think that if someone who is very successful finds ways to stay humble, this can help. For example, staying close with their family, donating to charities, volunteering, and more. These things, I think, can really help successful people stay humble.
I say yes and no. I think with any achievement, an individual is going to change to some degree, whether that change is positive or negative. As Tachney and Jordyn noted, though, it really depends on the person. At the end of the day, I think success and the way someone acts in return to it simply magnifies the person they are, rather than changing who they are. I read an article by Mindperk that said if you're a generous person when you're only modestly successful, then success makes you even more generous. Like Jordyn noted here, if you're a selfish person before success, then success makes you even more selfish. If your nature is to be a giving, caring person, then success will make you more so. With that, if you're materialistic, you will become more snotty, more, etc. with that. The bottom line here is that success doesn't change the type of person you are, it simply magnifies or amplifies the way in which you were before.
So it seems like you all agree that it depends on the person's belief and their personality. We learned a lot today at this talk show, and I would like to thank you all for your times, and thank you for everyone for coming and listening.